for being here. We're the panel about how to reach young investors, and the conference decided to have that moderated by someone eligible for Social Security. Go figure. As you can see, we have an esteemed panel. We only have now 44 minutes and 44 seconds left, so I will not go through the usual introductions. I'm going to jump right to the meat of what we're here for, so that I hope we can provide you an interesting discussion. So the first question, there we go. Do you all think an advisor's age matters to younger clients?
Relatability is going to be something that I said, and that doesn't matter your age per se. So if you are an older advisor, but you're willing to accept that younger professionals, if we're going that direction, are more interested in a different life than traditional. Maybe they want to take a sabbatical mid-career. Don't try to talk them out of that. Help them plan for that. So if you're willing to accept a different life goal for your clients and you can relate to that, I don't think age is as much of an issue.
So Justin just pulled relatability into the discussion. What do you think matters, or what kinds of things matter to younger investors?
I would say listening, and especially if it's going to be a younger client going with an older advisor, that's the scenario. I think that we would want somebody who's going to listen to us and not necessarily be our parent telling us, yes, you can do that, no, you can't do that, but sitting back and hearing what our goals are, hearing what our wishes are, and acknowledging those. I think that's a big thing. I think technology is something that's a hot point, and people talk about wanting to have a lot of technology for younger advisors. From my personal standpoint, I don't think right now young advisors care that much about the technology side of things. So I don't think having a slick technology stack is something that you need to worry about right now with young professionals. I think it's more of listening to them and helping them, plan for their life. I also think, real quick, I also think that younger professionals are more interested in the planning aspect, not the investment management aspect. Young professionals still need that, but at the end of the day, they're savvy enough to go find that elsewhere. I think they're more interested in how do I save for a family, how do I buy my first home, how do I get out of the student loan debt. And I think a true planner, you can be an advisor, but a true plan is what's going to help them and what they're most looking for. It's not the investment piece. That's a component, but you need to be able to advise on those other things, and that's what they're most interested in. Create a model that speaks to the relationship that you're going to offer them. So, I caught the tail end of the last presentation about fees. Well, if you have a minimum asset level or a minimum fee that's based off the assets you're managing, you've already eliminated your ability to work with a lot of young professionals. They don't have the assets yet, it's in their 401k. So what am I doing? It's something that I think is easy to implement. I have a subscription model. So I have retirees and I have young professionals. Young professionals are under a subscription model, a flat monthly fee, it's a financial plan, asset management is included in it, an annual review, unlimited access throughout the whole year if they have questions, but if life goes as planned for that year, we meet once a year. But they can call me anytime with questions that they have. And the fundamentals of that relationship mirror what I'm doing for my higher priced AUM model, but I've scaled it down as far as the portfolio construction is different. ETF models run by iRebound, TD Ameritrade, doesn't take a lot of time, real low cost. The one meeting a year instead of two. So I've been able to take that full planning relationship, scale it down at an affordable price to where I can provide value, provide service to somebody who can't get it somewhere else, and I'm being compensated fairly for my time. And one thing I would throw out there is, I think there's a misbelief that eventually when young professionals come into their wealth, whether it be they inherit money, don't forget that the older clients that you're working with today are going to pass away and they're going to pass their assets on to their children who we are working with.
A long time from now.
A long time. But it's going to happen. And those assets are going to come to the clients that we're working with, that we have been working with for 10, 15 years now, that no one else would take the time to work with them. And if you think that they're going to leave us, I would be very surprised. So I don't think you can just wait for those assets to pass the next generation and think, oh, now they're going to want more sophisticated planning, because the reality of it is we have the relationship. We were willing to take time with them and help them accomplish those goals when you wouldn't, and I don't think they're going to turn their back on us. And if we're smart as advisors, we're going to have that next level of service that they're going to need, because most of us started out doing that. It wasn't until recently that we added these other models. We'll be able to service them and take care of them. So I would, whether it's you as the lead advisor offering the subscription, or if part of your succession plan is to bring on a younger advisor, create a subscription model, create a flat fee, whatever it might be, scale down the level of service but to where you can provide good planning and good advice, but don't give them all the bells and whistles that they don't really need, and then you can charge them a more affordable price.
I think the industry statistics that I've seen support what Justin says. When assets pass from generation to the next generation, the percentage, the retention percentage for mom and dad's advisor is astonishingly low.
It also deters people who would be a bad fit for your firm. So if Emlyn stole two of my buzzwords. Like anytime I talk about this, I say there's three things you need to keep in mind. You need to be authentic, you need to be genuine. And when I say genuine, I mean you need to be doing these things for the right reasons. Ultimately, we do this content to hope to grow our brand and grow people, but ultimately, you want to be creating this content to educate, put yourself out there as an expert, let people get to know you, and then I'm a believer that good things will happen. And it's worked for me, so you're not going to change my mind that does work. And then the final thing that's important is it's a long game. It's going to take a while for you to get traction. Now, you can do some SEO things and really get into the weeds that might speed that up, but it's not going to be you put out 3 blog posts and all of a sudden you get a client. If you do, it's very lucky. So I'll share with you the kind of the ramp up that I had. What I saw, and I do a lot of content. I have 2 blogs, 3 podcasts, I do video, I have an Amazon skill. Like I'm all in on the content game to grow my business, and it's working. So the ramp up was though, the content that I created didn't bring clients in, but it served as a confirmation of referrals to me that were given. So a client gives my name, they go out and Google, which is the first thing everybody does, and you just find a bunch of my content, videos, whatever it might be, and you get a feel of who I am and also what my beliefs are. You know that I'm a believer in financial planning and my philosophies on investing. That's all out there. So you already know whether or not you buy into my approach, and you already know whether or not you like me. You can't tell, but I have a sleeve of tattoos. If that's going to bother you, that doesn't fit your image of a financial advisor, you're not going to call me. And that is okay, because I don't want to have to not be myself. If I want to wear a short sleeve shirt in the summer to work, I want to be able to do that and not have to worry about offending a client. So I'm deterring anybody who might have issues with that, or that I like rap music. Like, I'm letting myself be known, and to what Emlyn's experience has been, people appreciate that. So just be yourself, put it out there. The tough thing, I think, is how do you balance the educational aspect along with being yourself? And it takes a little bit of time to find that groove. I'll let you in on a secret. The good thing is you have time to figure that out, because when you first launch your blog or your podcast or your videos, no one's going to be watching other than your family. No one's going to read it, so don't worry about it. Get your groove, don't worry, and keep going, and then you're going to find your way. It took me a while. I had a view of what I wanted to be, and the way I write and what I do now is not what my original thought was. So that's what my advice would be.
Go ahead, Rick.
I just want to, everything you said is great. It was the same list that I have.
Did you guys get that recorded?
Yes. But doing a great job.
Kid.
Be original.
You're not kidding, Justin.
I know. I got my camera.
Be original.
I just got into voice thanks to Tyrone Rush Jr. He was telling me that voice is the future, which if you read the articles it is. So like I mentioned, I'm doing video already. I prefer video, so if you're going to pick one and you can get yourself comfortable in video, I would do that. And here's the reason why. You can take one piece of video and turn it into multiple pieces of content. So I mentioned voice. If you're not familiar with it, Amazon has the Echo devices. They have these things called flash briefings that you can subscribe to, and they're basically news rundowns or entertainment rundowns that you can tell. You can ask Alexa every day, what's my news? It'll go through the flash briefings. So what I've done is I've created a daily flash briefing where I'm using it to communicate with clients about what's going on in the news, what pertaining to financial planning or investments. And if there's nothing major on the news, or I don't want it to always be about investments, I start going to more conceptual things like what's the definition of wealth versus rich, and what would you rather be, and kind of challenge them to think, just to further that communication. So my clients can hear from me 6 days a week in addition to the meetings that we have. Back to the video aspect, what I'm doing though is you can strip the audio out of the video and then put that into your Amazon device skill to be content there. You can take the video, take the audio out of it and make it a podcast. So one video can give you a podcast, it could give you an Amazon skill. You could also take that audio, feed it through a dictating service, get it all on paper, and you can turn it into a written blog post. So now you've done one piece of work and you've created these different platforms. And I think, well, people consume content in different ways, and I want to be everywhere. So I want to do more with voice. I want to leverage that to a greater capacity. I feel good about my strategy now, but I want to do more there. But I would tell you, if you're not, I'd really consider video, because I think that gives you your best bang for your buck. And I also think it takes the least amount of time.
Rick?
And so I was out there earlier today, and I was kind of bored, and I was on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see these two guys doing a live Twitter feed over Twitter. So I turned it on, and I listened to you guys talking, and we're walking live. I didn't know you could do that, but I think it's the coolest thing. Thank you. I'm going to try to do that sometime.
We're showing our age.
Well, has that been around for like 10 years?
No. I applaud that, though, because by no means are you old, but most... I don't mean that disrespectfully, but most advisors in your position, aren't even on Twitter, keeping up with things, and they're not going to be, you just said you're going to give it a try. They're not even going to be willing to give that a try.
By the way, follow all of us on Twitter.
So after the backhanded compliment, which I did not mean, I think that's good. I think it's great that you do that, and I think that's why you continue to have your new business thriving the way it is. It's because you're out there, and you're relevant, and you're relatable, which is what I talked about before.
I am willing to embarrass myself.
Like I just did.
Justin mentioned a little bit ago that with younger investors, planning has been more resonant than investment management, if I'm quoting.
Since you quoted me, I'll go first. For my clients, it's more, the young professionals that are coming to me are at a position where they have young families, they're making good incomes, and they realize they have the opportunity to really get a good start. So the planning is all the way just from the basics of how much do I need in an emergency fund. And honestly, I didn't expect that because I thought people would be on. I think the 3 to 6 month rule, a lot of people know, but they don't. Where do I need to hold that? So there's a lot of basics there, but the good thing is those are very quick and easy to get through, and that builds momentum behind the plan. But then it goes into most young families don't have enough life insurance. They don't have a will set up, yet they have 2 or 3 young kids. So it's the basics before we ever get to that investment part. And although they hate having those conversations, being there to be able to facilitate that conversation, they really appreciate, because they're not going to go home and talk about it on their own. So I think it's the basics of a financial plan that aren't the exciting, they're not the conversations people want to have, but that's really where they're seeing the value.
A terrific basic that I have used successfully is the safe savings rate research, that at given ages and different situations, how much you need to save to be able to fund your retirement. And it's a great tool to use with young families, because they see, well, gee, I may have to save 11% now, but if they look and they don't start for 10 more years, that number jumps significantly, and that can be a really good motivator. And it also helps because if they recognize that the amount they save matters more than the return levels they get on their portfolio, that can be really comforting in terms of the future.
I also think, and then I'll be quiet, that what they're looking for from a planning standpoint it does depend on the type of clients you might be working with. So I've started to focus on working with entrepreneurs, and once you get past those basics, a lot of the planning is related around the business. So we're not so much concerned about the stock market investments, it's how can we help my business grow. And it took me a while to get to this comfort level, but I'm comfortable making recommendations that are not traditional to help somebody grow their business. Because if you look at the numbers and you look at the charts that are out there, those that have the greatest wealth got there because they own businesses. So how do we plan?
And truth be told, you all are entrepreneurs, so you can talk about it.
Right. So how do we help this business grow after we've got the personal finances? And so that has been a change from the traditional planning, which honestly, I've been doing this almost 15 years. It's exciting for me. It's what I see keeping me wanting to do this another 15 years, because it's a break from the traditional planning. And while the mic comes up, even though you might be behind relative to us, if you look at the profession, you could start today and you're still way ahead of most. So it's
You're
still
in the top quartile.
Yeah, it's still early, so don't let the behind scare you away.
Near, go ahead.
I was wondering, in a world where one misstatement or perceived misstatement can end a career, do you worry about that risk? And if you do worry about it, how do you manage it?
Hell yeah. But the way, I worry that if I put something out there that your credibility goes out the window, but that helps me be a better advisor, because if I'm doing a research-driven piece, you better believe I'm going to double check the numbers in my resources to make sure that what I'm putting out there is accurate. So the content also helps me stay up to date with what's going on, researching changes in the tax laws or whatever it might be that I might be discussing without it being advice, so that I'm not making a mistake. So that does scare me. And that's also one of the reasons I tend to stay more towards the side of philosophical, bigger picture concepts rather than doing a deep dive research, because I don't have the time to do all that research. So when I do, I make sure it's accurate, but I tend to stay more towards areas I can't get in trouble by giving misfacts. And since you used the word pitch, I would also, with your content, I don't have calls to action on my blog post. I understand the marketing aspect behind it, get them in a sales funnel, bring you down, but I think people that are consuming your content are really wanting to be educated, not be told how your services can help them. If they like your content, they like what you have to say, they'll know how to find you. Like work with me on the top of your website, but I would be reluctant to put a lot of calls to actions on your blog post. I think you should view your blog post as a way to educate, put information out there, let people get to know you, and then don't make the ask. And sometimes not making the ask is a better, if you want to use the term, close than actually trying to get them through. So I understand why marketing people say to do that, but I think you're better off to just let it be authentic and be about the education and the information, and they'll call you, they'll email you.
So you got a few Twitter celebrities on stage, but if folks are out there and they want to get started, is there a platform that you suggest where advisors start to gain traction? Any preferred starting place, or should it be Twitter, should it be LinkedIn, should it be Instagram?
I think you think about your audience and where they're hanging out. I don't think Twitter is the place to go find clients personally. For me, Twitter is all about this. I've gotten some clients off of Twitter, but I look at leveraging Twitter as to meet more advisors, learn from them. There's so much information that is exchanged out there. I think you would use it for the personal, for the professional connections. I think, depending on your demographic, maybe it's Facebook. I think LinkedIn is a good place. If you're thinking about wanting to work with professionals, it's a professional network. I mentioned video. LinkedIn loves video. I think LinkedIn would be a place you can publish blog posts there. So if you don't want to get your own blog post, you can publish on LinkedIn's platform. So I would say, if you're going for clients, if you had to pick one, I'd probably go LinkedIn.